Canada's inflation rate falling more sharply than expected in January, hitting 2.9%. The drop follows a 3.4% gain in December. Now, economists had predicted the annual rate of inflation would slow to just 3.2% for January. The unexpected drop is largely driven by lower prices for gasoline. Rising grocery prices also slowed significantly. CTV's Scott Hurst joins us now to walk us through some of the highlights. Good morning to you, Scott. What can you tell us?
Yeah, good morning. It tumbled faster than expected for the first time in several months. The cost of living increase has dropped, and 2.9% is the consumer price index number. Of course, that's watched closely, not just by economists, but all of us who have to pay the price of goods, whether it's interest on mortgage, gasoline, or food prices. And gas, energy prices, and food prices were a significant driver in this number dropping faster or accelerating slowly at a faster pace than expected. So year over year, 2.9% is the consumer price index for January. That's the number that we got this morning. And as you mentioned, gasoline, food prices, those are the big drivers lowering this number at a slower pace. And so gas in January down 4%. Food prices rising at 3.4% compared with an increase of 4.7% in January. So that was broad-based as well, with meat, dairy products, bakery products, all contributing to a slower year-over-year growth in January. And of course, this then leads to the big question of interest rates. And so that is where the Bank of Canada, of course, watching these numbers closely, Marcia.
Right. And so there was some hope, speculation that interest rates would come down in the spring. Then that got pushed to early summer. So what are we watching for today when it comes to that big question around where interest rates go this year?
In January, the Bank of Canada said it was still being cautious and that it was still concerned about inflation being stubbornly high. Of course, its target is 2% and likes to go between the 1% to 3% range. So getting into that target range, 2% is the target for the Bank of Canada for ongoing interest rates. So it is, at its last announcement, Marcia, in January, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem saying it was still cautious. The Bank of Canada was still being cautious, and so they decided to keep the interest rate at 5%. Economists are predicting that potentially in June could be a time when we see the Bank of Canada start to cut interest rates as they continue to do their job bringing down inflation, of course, from that high that we all remember about a year and a half ago, where it topped 8% when we went to the grocery store and were hit with sticker shock and we're filling up our gas, and of course the shelter costs, which is rent and the interest on our mortgage, all incredibly high, but have been on a downward trend more or less for the last year and a half now. Consumer price index at 2.9%. So the next Bank of Canada rate announcement when we talk about interest rates is March 6th. So we'll have to wait and see. It's expected that they'll continue to keep the rate at 5%, but then reading the tea leaves from that announcement will really give economists and those watching this number closely the framework for where they feel the bank will go from that point and how quickly they might start to drop interest rates, Marcia.
All right, Scott Hurst for starting us off with the breaking news. And